Good morning, everybody. I hope your day is going well. Um, well, I'm not usually on this early, but yesterday I had to go to Lexington, and that's like a 3-hour drive. So I had like 6 hours on the road yesterday, and I was killed by the time I got home. I was tired, I guess I should say. But I've got a lot of goodies today. I have been working on another video here, and we're going to talk about uh, Shmex trafficking. It seems like this is becoming a big topic here in Letcher County, right? Let me pull this up. You guys let me know if you can see and we can hear. I'm poor, so I don't have all the, I can't afford to buy the streaming software and stuff yet, but that's coming. It's coming. All right. So I wanted to look at this article that I dug up. This was from November 6th. Of 2019. Okay, good deal. Thank you, honey, for letting me know. I hope everybody is doing well today. So we've got Rugs and Ladies of the Night probe brings arrest of Eola mine holder. Now, this was back in 2019. Those of you who are following Miss TNT, the Truth and Transparency, I think this is what she was getting at with some of the people that she was digging up. Okay. A 4-year investigation into rug trafficking and Ladies of the Night in eastern Kentucky has resulted in the arrest of a man with ties to a Letcher County coal company. Mark J. Millsley is a former Lexington accountant and one of two organizers of Mark Energy, LLC, the successful bidder for an Eola mine liquidated as part of the Black Jewel Holding Company bankruptcy. He is charged with conspiracy to distribute a quantity of medication containing OC, the bad stuff that just decimated everybody, OXY, and conspiracy to engage in Shmex trafficking. The criminal complaint alleges that a rug reeler and PIMP in Laurel County ran a ring of dozens of women forced into the oldest profession in the world to pay their rug debts to him, and that Millslagel paid him several times a week to send 2 of the women at a time to his room in the Holiday Inn Express in London. But in addition to disturbing allegations of human trafficking and rug abuse, the complaint also includes a text message in which the accountant says he and others intend to bankrupt this mine and start over. It is not clear whether the message refers to the Letcher County mine, but Mark Energy appears to be the only mining company connected to Millslagel in the state's corporate records. Millslagel was, until 13 days ago, the registered agent for Mark Energy. He is accused of paying up to $5,000 a week for Shmex with Ladies of the Night, allegedly provided by Logan Ray Towery, an accused PIMP rug reeler in Laurel County, and participating in a plan to pay for OXYs and other rugs for the girls and women. In a September 30th text message exchange between Millslagel and Towery, Millslegel alludes to the unnamed coal company connected to him. The texts were filed in an affidavit sworn by Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives ATF Special Agent Todd E. Tremaine. And then I think this is the text message. Towery, hey, any plans for tonight? Millslegel, hey man, I probably won't be down this week. We are going to bankrupt this mine and restart again later. Towery, okay. Tremaine says immediately after that entry that he knows that Mark Energy LLC, one of the successful bidders in the Black Jewel Holdings bankruptcy liquidation, filed a notice of intent to mine in Letcher County. Mark Energy LLC lists Mark Millslegel as one of its organizers. Mark Energy advertised a notice of intent to mine in the Mountain Eagle on August 21st, stating the mine near Franks Creek encompasses 109.61 acres of surface and underlies 5,118.43 acres. A mining permit amendment increasing the surface acreage to 167 acres ran in the Mountain Eagle on October 16th. The second notice was 17 days after the text messages, and 8 days before Millslegel's name was replaced by Amanda Spangler as registered agent. Most of the other messages related to procuring females for Millslegel and discussions of their performance, looks, and addictions. The messages came to light after Kentucky State Police obtained a search warrant October 8th for Towery's home, cars, and person. Law enforcement officers confiscated pew-pews, 125 suspected OXYs, other unidentified medications, more than $44,000 in cash, and Towery's cell phone. On the phone, according to the affidavit, were over 1,400 pictures, many of them in a PORNO form. Tremaine has been able to identify a small portion of these women, approximately 40 local women and girls, the affidavit says. The addition to Millslegel and Towery, agents arrested Gary L. Cupp and Albert Davis of Knox County. Agents say Towery was also distributing rugs to Davis, and that Davis also ran a Shmex trafficking ring that included some of the same women that Towery used. Towery, Cupp, and Davis are charged with conspiring together to distribute the medicines containing OXY and others that were very similar. Towery is charged with conspiring to recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, and maintain a person, knowing and in reckless regard of the fact that force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion would be used to cause a person to engage in a commercial Shmex act. Both Towery and Davis face charges of possession of a pew-pew in furtherance of a rug trafficking offense. Davis is also charged with possession of a pew-pew by a convicted felon. According to Task Force Officer Raleigh Benge, Towery would sell the medicines to Davis and send girls to him for medicine. Benge said in the affidavit that Towery said Davis enjoyed inflicting pain on the women and photographing it. We have to remember that evil exists in this world, okay? It really, really does. Towery, let me make sure everything is good. Are we all good? All right. Good morning, fam. Good morning, honey. Okay. Towery personally observed injuries on some of his girls, including missing clumps of hair and marks. Towery stated that his girls have complained of Davis using alligator clips to the point of drawing blood, red stuff, hitting them and ripping out their hair. Towery stated that he regretted sending some of his girls to Davis for medicine, Raleigh said in his affidavit. Affidavits in the case date back to 2015, showing the investigation began when a woman called 911 from a motel in Rockcastle County asking for help. When officers arrived, they found an unalived man in the room and learned that Towery was supplying rugs to the woman and to the man who had passed away. According to affidavits filed by ATF agents, Towery would procure 300 to 500 OXYs and a week from a source in Detroit. Oh, he would get him 300 to 500 OXY pills a week from a certain source in Detroit and distribute them around Laurel, Whitley, and Knox counties, usually in 100 amount lots. He made exceptions for the women, the affidavit said, fronting them the medicine a few at a time or one at a time and delaying payment to keep them coming back. During questioning by ATF agents on October 29th, Tremaine said Towery identified Millslagle as his biggest lady of the night customer. And he would sometimes front the medicine to Millslagle, meaning give them to him on credit to give to the girls. Millslagle would then pay him back for the rugs when he paid for the Shmex, or Towery would take it out of the girls' pay, according to the affidavit. Other times, Towery allegedly told law enforcement he would front the medicine to the girls, and when they had Shmex with Millslagle, they would use part of the money they received to pay him for the rugs. So it doesn't sound like these girls were getting anything, really. I mean, it's unbelievable how people in such positions of power, because this was a really wealthy dude, okay? These people were very, very high profile people, and they were behaving in this manner. We have to remember, too, that there's such a thing called sexual immorality, and that's going to mean different things to different people. But the way that the world has really kind of went crazy lately, it just keeps getting worse and worse. Okay, let me get back over here. Other times, Towery allegedly told law enforcement he would. Okay. According to the affidavit, Millslagle paid Towery $4,000 to $5,000 a week for girls, and also obtained girls from a high roller escort site on the internet. Towery advised that Millslagle would have girls delivered to the hotel like clockwork in pairs of 2, the affidavit says. Towery stated that Millslagle normally liked 2 girls at the same time. The text messages show Millslagle knew the women were on rugs. He and Towery discussed one girl's use of H and a plan to get her switched to the OXYs to control her drama. In another, the two discuss another girl who Slagle allegedly hired who had passed away. Towery. Example of dangerous activities. And then it looks like that must be a picture of victim 6. And then there's a picture of victim 7. Was found unalived of an OD of that H yesterday. And then Slagle sent a text message that said the same, and then victim 7, that I saw a bunch of times. This is a text message between the two men. According to the affidavit, at least 2 of the women Slagle was seeing OD'd. At least 14 victims of the Ladies of the Night Ring are listed in the affidavit, and at least 1 other target of the investigation. In another message, Slagle complains that one of the girls stole from him while she was in his room. Slagle, that's a shame. Victim 1 has disappeared on me, and she took at least $1,000 with her. At least she left my wallet alone. And then Towery says, always secure your money with anyone, especially if they do rugs. All girls I have ever met in business are on something. Slagle, have you heard from her? I think I'm done with these rug heads for a while. They're too risky in too many ways and just not worth it. The girls from SA are clean and better looking. It is not clear what SA means. In another, the two discuss a new girl who the affidavit describes as a young blonde girl. This is another text message from Towery. Victim 12 said you wanted to see her on Wednesday, correct? Slagle, yes, let's do it. She's a freak. Towery, ha. Do want to try another new girl too. And then he sends photos of a young blonde girl. Towery, another skinny freak blonde. Did you get messenger photos undressed? Slagle, looks SEXY as HELL. I'm in. Towery, you need to add me a friend on Facebook. Slagle, too risky. Wife looks at my page. Sounds good on tomorrow night. Towery, victim 13. He must send him a picture of the victim. Friends call her, and then he says the name. Victim 13. Another spinner, supposed to be a freak. If I can hold up, I will try her out tonight. If I can hold up, I'll try her out tonight. With a girlfriend and all this new meat and the other PILL WHOR. Unbelievable. Let's see. Unaliving this old man. LOL. And then Slagle says, use it or lose it. Smiley face. That just makes me sick. It really, really does. And you see how easy, like these people are talking back and forth to each other. Like it's no big deal. This is just the norm. The affidavit outlines how Towery allegedly gave girls as young as 17 medications free until they were addicted, then began charging them. When they couldn't pay and began to have withdrawal, he would take payment in Shmex acts, what he called training them, and then make dates for them with Slagle or other men. One told agents she was paid $500 for Shmex with Millslagle, but had to kick back some of the money to Towery to pay for the medicine that he had given to her on credit. Another girl, referred to as victim 3 in the complaint, told agents Towery paid her in rugs to recruit others into being ladies of the night. The affidavit said she and another girl were to be paid $500 each by Millslagle for Shmex, but Towery took $300 of the second girl's payment to pay himself back for the H that he gave them prior to the date. She said Millslagle also paid Towery $200 each for the girls, in addition to their payments. According to the affidavit, victim 3 said she would often pass out during Shmex with Millslagle, and on one night she passed out on the bathroom floor where Millslagle woke her up to have Shmex. Yeah, he don't care about her. Another girl, identified in the affidavit as victim 4, had been in custody of her older sister and was exposed to OXYs when her sister was having Shmex with a man identified only as Snowman. She said she began taking the medicine too, and Snowman introduced her to Towery, who gave her free medicine until she was far in debt to him. Towery then set up Shmex with Millslagle and took all of the $500 he paid her for 2 hours of Shmex to pay off debts for the medicine to which she was addicted, the affidavit said. You see how this all works? You see how they get them in? They get them into the cycle, in this circle, and then they can't get out. Victim 4 stated that she also used H in Millslagle's hotel room. Victim 4 stated that Millslagle did not mind if a girl nodded off during Shmex. For example, victim 4 stated that she saw victim 3 nod off and Millslagle just kept having Shmex with victim 3. Victim 4 also nodded off herself during Shmex with Millslagle, the affidavit said. And that's the end of the article. And this was back in November 6th of 2019. So that was what, 5 years ago? It is so disturbing. And this was just 2 people. And like, we see what's going on in the news with old Diddy, you know. Well, you know, we got some no Diddies here too. And there's been rumors of stuff like that for a very, very long time. But we can't go on rumors. We have to go on fact. We have to go on investigations. You know, that's why it's so important that we have people who actually know how to investigate this stuff. You know, I think the world is starting to come around from blaming the victim. You know, oh, it's just the girl's fault. It's the girl's fault. Well, we have to do better. We have to do better. All right, let me read this other one. I found this one. This was from April 4th, 2018. ATF agents toss reporters home. And this was a reporter from the Mountain Eagle. Federal agents, accompanied by Kentucky State Police, served a search warrant on the home of Mountain Eagle reporter William Farley last week, a few days after the Letcher County Sheriff's Department raided his next-door neighbor and brother-in-law. Farley was not charged with any crime, and he said nothing belonging to him or his immediate family was taken. Farley, 67, who is a college professor and part-time reporter, said he had just returned home from the rec center when he saw blue lights flashing outside his window and went to the door to see what was happening. He said when he went outside, there were at approximately 10 Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, so ATF agents, and 8 state troopers in his front yard, at least 2 with long guns. They were pretty harsh at first, but the guy in charge told me I wasn't in any trouble after they saw I was going to cooperate, Farley said. He said while the agents did not touch him or point weapons at him, they talked pretty rough. Farley said he told them he has a heart condition and would answer their questions. I told them they could search anything they wanted, and they sure as HELL did, he said. They tore this house all to pieces. Farley is the brother-in-law of Danny Robert Collins, who sheriff's deputies arrested a few days before and charged with trafficking in meth. The sheriff's department said they confiscated 1,800 grams of meth, 10 grams of heroin H, and more than $5,000 in cash from Collins. Farley's family had traded houses with Collins a few years ago when he married Collins' sister. He said Collins, who was a mechanic and had lived in the house for 30 years, kept the garage that is on the property and had never removed a safe from the basement of the house. He had about 6 pew-pews in that safe, and they took them, he said. Local police often use a procedure called knock and talk, which means they knock on the door and ask permission to search. A warrant is sometimes obtained in advance, but only served if the person refuses a voluntary search. Federal law enforcement is not known for conducting voluntary searches. Kentucky State Police in Hazard said ATF agent Jeff Baker, a former state trooper, has charge of the investigation and would have to make any statements about the warrant. The public information officer for ATF Louisville Field Division did not return any phone calls seeking comment about Farley's home and had been searched. Why the agents did it in the manner they did or what they found. And that's the end of the article. It doesn't even go on to say anything else. Okay. So let me get over here. I wanted to read okay. And in Kentucky, Shmex trafficking is defined as the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel a person to participate in commercial sexual activity. Commercial sexual activity includes any Shmex act for which something of value is given, promised, or received, or participation in the production of obscene material. Age. If the victim is under 18, force, fraud, or coercion is not required. Buyers. Buyers of commercial Shmex acts with minors can also be guilty of human trafficking. Kentucky's Human Trafficking Victims' Rights Act of 2013 includes a safe harbor component to protect young victims from prosecution and provide recovery services, which is so important. You know, so many women go through to end up being survivors of sexual abuse as children, as young teens, as young women, young adults. And if you are from a certain culture where that is seen as acceptable, you know, look at the different cases that we have been looking at here in Letcher County of how our officials who are running our courthouse sentence offenders. We brought the case a couple weeks ago of Patrick Little. He was indicted on 44 counts with minors 2 different minors, one under 12 and one under 16. And our prosecutors are trying to give them special sentencing recommendations? Are you joking me? It's unbelievable. When I was looking, and I'm just going to throw out a fictional uh, a fictional story. What if there was a certain lawyer who was right in the middle of the criminal justice system where he lived, and he was very vocal about being a pervy person. It's one of the things that he's known for saying. I'm a hardcore P. ERV. And, well, I'm just going to leave it there. We really need people to come in here and investigate this area. All right. While I was looking all this stuff up, I found a story that I thought was just fascinating. It was from Shirley Jackson, and it's called The Lottery. And it's a little bit long. It's a short story, but it's a longer short story. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. But I found a summary and analysis of Shirley Jackson's The Lottery by Dr. Oliver Turrell. The Lottery is the best-known story of the American writer Shirley Jackson. Published in The New Yorker in 1948 and collected in The Lottery and Other Stories, the story is about a village where an annual lottery is drawn. However, the fate of the person who draws the winning slip is only revealed at the end of the story in a dark twist. The lottery forces us to address some unpleasant aspects of human nature, such as people's obedience to authority and tradition, and their willingness to carry out evil acts in the name of superstition. You can read The Lottery here before proceeding to our summary. Okay, The Lottery plot summary. The story takes place one morning between 10 o'clock and noon on the 27th of June in a village somewhere in presumably the USA. The year is not stated. The 300 villagers are gathering to undertake the annual ritual of the lottery, which is always drawn on this date every year. Some of the children of the village are busy making a pile of stones, which they closely guard in the corner of the village square. The lottery is led by a Mr. Summers, who has an old black box. Inside the black box, slips of paper have been inserted, all of them blank apart from one. The head of each household, when called up to the box by Mr. Summers, has to remove one slip of paper. When every household, can you all still see and hear me and everything? Hopefully everything's good. Okay, sorry. Let me get back over here. When every household has drawn a slip of paper, the drawn slips are opened. It is discovered that Bill Hutchinson has drawn the marked slip of paper, and it is explained that next one person from within his family must be chosen. His family comprises 5 people: himself, his wife Tessie, and their 3 children, Bill Jr., Nancy, and Dave. Bill's wife, Tessie, isn't happy that her family has been chosen and calls for the lottery to be redrawn, claiming that her husband wasn't given enough time to choose his slip of paper. But the lottery continues. Now, each of the 5 members of the Hutchinson household must draw one slip from the black box. One slip will be marked while the others are not. Draw out a slip of paper, starting with the youngest of the children. When they have all drawn a slip, they are instructed to open the folded pieces of paper they have drawn. All of them are blank except for Tessie's, which has a black mark on it, which Mr. Summers had made with his pencil the night before. Now, the significance of the pile of stones the children had been making at the beginning of the story becomes clear. Each of the villagers picks up a stone and they advance on Tessie, keen to get the business over with. One of the villagers throws a stone at Tessie's head. She protests that this isn't right and isn't fair, but the villagers proceed to hurl their stones, presumably stoning her to unaliving. The lottery analysis. The lottery is set on 27th of June and was published 26th June issue of the New Yorker. Perhaps surprisingly, given its status as one of the canonical, I don't know what that word is, stories of the 20th century, the story was initially met with anger and even a fair amount of hate mail from readers, with many canceling their subscriptions. What was it within the story that touched a collective nerve? The lottery is often analyzed as a story about mob mentality and blind tradition, where people perform seemingly irrational rituals simply because they've always done so for as long as they can remember. Old Man Warner, the old man of the village, quotes an old saying, "Lottery in June, corn be heavy soon," indicating that the annual lottery is thought to bring about favorable crops and a good harvest. We may scoff at the Carthaginians sacrificing their children to the gods or the Aztecs doing similar, but Jackson's point is that every age and every culture has its own illogical and even harmful traditions, which are obeyed in the name of tradition and in the superstitious belief that they have a beneficial effect. To give up the lottery would, in the words of Old Man Warner, be the behavior of crazy fools, because he is convinced that the lottery is not only beneficial, but essential to the success of the village's crops. People will unalive if the lottery is not drawn, because the crops will fail and people will starve as a result. It's much better to people like Old Man Warner that one person can be chosen at random, so the process is fair and sacrificed for the collective health of the community. There are obviously many parallels with other stories here, as well as various ethical thought experiments in moral philosophy. The trolley problem is one. A few years after Jackson's The Lottery was published, Ray Bradbury wrote a story, The Flying Machine, in which a Chinese emperor decides it is better that one man be unalived in order to keep the secret of the flying machine concealed from China's enemies than that the man be spared and his invention fall into the wrong hands and 1,000,000 people be unalived in an enemy invasion. Can you all still hear me and everything? Good, 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 good. Okay. But what makes the lottery in Jackson's story even more problematic is that there is no evidence that the stoning of one villager does affect the performance of the village crops. Such magical thinking obviously belongs to religious superstition and a belief in an intervening God who demands a sacrifice in recognition of his greatness before he will allow the crops to flourish and people to thrive. Indeed, in the realms of American literature, such superstition is likely to put us in mind of a writer from the previous century, Nathaniel Hawthorne, whose tales, The Minister's Black Veil, for one example, often tap into collective superstitions and beliefs among small religious communities in America's Puritan past. But even more than Hawthorne, we might compare Jackson's The Lottery with a couple of other 20th century stories. The first is another lottery story and perhaps the most notable precursor to Jackson's George Louis Borges' 1941 story, The Lottery in Babylon, which describes a lottery which began centuries ago and has been going on ever since. Although this lottery initially began as a way of giving away prizes, it eventually developed so that fines would be given out as well as rewards. In time, participation in the lottery became not optional, but compulsory. The extremes between nice prizes and nasty surprises, as it were, became more pronounced. At one end, a lucky winner might be promoted to a high office in Babylon. Okay, so I'm not going to keep reading that because I don't think any of that's really related to the point that I was trying to get to. My point is power corrupts. I wrote a few things down here. I also looked up what a couple definitions are. Conspiracy. It's a secret plan by a group of people to do something unlawful or harmful. Now, we've all heard conspiracy theories, so what is a conspiracy theory? Well, let me see. I think I noted it here. Just a second. Okay. Conspiracy theory. A belief that some secret but influential organization is responsible for an event or phenomenon. Well, you know, what I think when I hear conspiracy theory is people making fun of people. Oh, going on. But look at what we're seeing in our news today. Is it so crazy to think that you've got two bad apples in a certain circle of powerful people? Because it looks to me like it's becoming more and more. Okay, sexual immorality. What is that? It's acts that go against social norms or morally objectionable. Evil, iniquity, wickedness, immorality. And then I grabbed a couple quotes. One of them was, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you have a position where you are in total control, you have all control and power over everybody else around you, and there's no checks and balances on that. I mean, where are the checks and balances? They're supposed to be within that same system. But what about when they start working together? What about when they're friends and they don't want to go against their friend? They don't want to say anything that would upset their friend. Here's another quote. It is not power that corrupts, but fear. Fear of losing power corrupts those who wield it. And fear of the scourge of power corrupts those who are subject. That came from, I think this was down in Tennessee. I'm going to stop sharing this and reshare it because I think we might have. There we go. Sometimes you just got to redo it. All right. Let me pull this up. Got some slow internet connection or something's going on. Give me just a second. I'm sorry. What's going on here? Let me refresh it real quick. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I want to know what you guys think too. Powerful men in small towns hold all the power and no one overseeing them. Well, there's a whole lot of people on TikTok that are sharing their stories. And, like I've said before, there's a whole lot of people who are afraid. They're afraid to come forward and tell their own story. And so
this game, you're not ready for it.
So other people are kind of coming through and telling their story.
Over a year ago,
Here we
I got a
go.
call from General Counsel wondering if I would accept the assignment of the investigation into the potential misdeeds of Jamey Noel.
This is
I
the
wasn't
sheriff.
given any explanation as to
Listen to this.
the allegations that were being levied against him. Yet I accepted the assignment as my duty to the citizens of the state of Indiana. I somehow got in touch with Officer Heron and asked him,
Can you all hear
what
it?
was this case about? I didn't know anything about it. He gave me a short explanation that there were some suggestions that there was perhaps some forgeries for an officer to get a pension he didn't earn, and some misappropriations of money. So I had a bit of an explanation, and then he set about his task of investigating. And Officer Grew, I agree with you. Officers Heron and Hanson have been exemplary detectives. One afternoon, I received a text from Officer Heron that said, "Are you available for a search warrant affidavit and probable cause?" And I said, yes. I said, can you tell me a little bit what it's about? He said, "I believe I found all the missing shipping containers that were obtained by Clark County Sheriff's Department, but that are now missing." And there was a short delay, and it said, "and a train." I immediately had to call him because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I said, "Did you really say a train?" He said, "Yeah, a train." That's the way this case has proceeded, one outlandish discovery after another. I was here last Friday listening to arguments concerning John Miller and the change of venue because of public outrage that the citizens of Clark County have been directly deceived, defrauded, betrayed, ignored, all the while waiting for help that came too late. Mr. Noel, you tarnished the badge you were given by the citizens who you tricked into voting for you and trusting you. You have failed everyone who has ever worn a uniform, whether it be law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, or the like. You profess to promote democratic freedom, yet you behaved as a political fascist, thwarting and bullying those who would not submit to your will. How do you restore public trust in their government and their need for equal justice under the law, not just for Jamey Noel's friends, but for fair treatment for all of those who seek to uphold our office with integrity? Restoring trust means allowing justice to prevail. I respect and adopt Superintendent Carter's words when he indicated, as a public servant, you give to those in need, not take from them when their backs are turned. And that one person can destroy what 1,000 have built. You should have adhered to his advice many years ago. We have heard today that real lives were lost in exchange for your greed. Employees lacked equipment and staff to effectively perform their duties, and therefore the citizens of Clark County, perhaps Floyd County, lost their loved ones. The town of Charleston had to find means to ensure funding for a resource officer for their schools to protect their children, again, because of your greed. You failed as an uncle and a brother in all regard. You failed as a father. I would have thought that any honorable man would have accepted responsibility for their misdeeds instead of getting your daughter arrested and charged. Yet you sat silent until today.
Anyone with $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans may qualify for help from National Debt Relief. Minimum payments could.
Your commitment to your extravagant greed even went so far as to steal from your nieces and nephews, your deceased brother's children. What could be more reprehensible than that? Your actions have revealed that your lust for power and pleasure are worth far more than the lives of those entrusted to you for your care, but today the court says otherwise. I have wrestled with the idea of accepting or rejecting this plea. When I was here last Friday, counsel for Mr. Miller made argument that everybody wants you to do a lifetime in prison. And maybe that's what you deserve. But the law will not allow me to do that. I asked Office of Court Services to do an analysis. Fellow up there I respect, who's probably a lot smarter than me, as to what the minimum and maximum I might be able to give to you would be. And we've had discussions about that, and I've discussed it with others and done my own research. I could give you perhaps more time, but then I would be subject to an appeal. And the Court of Appeals might lower my sentence substantially, as I recently had done in Washington County. They thought I give them too much. I thought I was right, but the Court of Appeals said otherwise. You can't just take each count and add a year. There's issues concerning continuous criminal conduct, and minimum and maximum, and how they're tied together with all the other charges and time elements. So as I've analyzed this, I've come to the conclusion that it's a very substantial sentence, considering that these are level 5s and level 6 felonies. And I also listened today carefully. And not one of them indicated that they wanted you to spend more time in prison. They wanted you to remember your deceased brother for the rest of your life and what you did to his children. Some of them want you to suffer. And you can understand that, I would hope, considering how you betrayed everybody that you possibly knew. Everybody that thought you were their friend. Matt Owen could barely look at you. He held you up as a father figure. Supported you when you were telling everybody it's a witch hunt. He still believed you. Yet you deceived everybody. Witch hunt. Way to deflect responsibility. So, with reluctance, I will accept the plea agreement.
Okay. So he accepted a 15-year plea agreement for that guy. He was a sheriff. Okay. Now, I also wanted to tie this in. I had a source who gave me some information on the Ben Fields situation. Okay, this is all ties together. In my mind anyway. Allegedly. Let me okay. So if you watched a couple of the videos that we did, we saw how there were some unsolved murks that happened in this area after in the last several years. Okay. Ben Fields was the deputy under Sheriff Mickey Steins, who was accused and convicted of sexual abuse with women who had the ankle monitors on house arrest. Now, Ben Fields worked in the courthouse. I don't know if he was Judge Mullins' bailiff after Mickey went and became sheriff. Mickey was his bailiff for 10 years or so. And so I think it might have been Ben who took that position over, but I'm not sure. But anyway, he worked in the courthouse. He worked side by side with them all. Okay. Now, one of the 3 women on the lawsuit against the sheriff's department and Ben Fields. Now, she OD'd and passed away January 17th, 2023. And her name, we're not going to say her name. Now, Patricia Deathridge, she was 40. She was another complainant. And she was found unalived on July 31st, 2023. But it all started when someone in the courthouse learned of the inappropriate exchange text messages between Fields and the girl who was in the lawsuit. And she had text messages between the two regarding the allegations. Fields' grandmother was allegedly paying the phone bill for him. And after she heard the rumors that were going around, she allegedly went and got a printout from the phone company. On December 12th, 2021, 82-year-old Lois Jean Rogers Trent was found murked in her home. 2 days after her husband had been found, passed away. Now, Patricia Deathridge's mother filed a complaint that her daughters, and Patricia's the one who was found unalived over the hill. Okay, her mother had turned in some complaints that her daughter's home was being burglarized, but nothing was being stolen. That someone kept breaking in looking for something. Deathridge's mother is Angela Roberts, 59, and she was found unalived on the side of the road, March 8th, 2024. Now, Angela Roberts is the mother of Deathridge. They were both found. Somebody had unalived them, both. To find out that they were all related to Ben Fields was something that I did not know prior to when we did our videos just a couple weeks ago. Angela Roberts, these are all of these people are related. Angela Roberts is the mother of the one girl who was unalived. She was Lois's niece, the 82-year-old woman who was found murked. The deputy involved, Ben Fields, was her grandson and Patricia's cousin, allegedly. So, let's see. So, who at the courthouse found out about the messages after Fields' grandma went and told them about the printout she had gotten, allegedly? All of this was after Fields got busted, allegedly. Or, well, not all of that was after Fields got busted. Let's see, what was the dates? 2021 was when Rogers Trent was found. 23, July 31st, 23 was when Patricia was found. And January 17th, 2023 was when the other girl was found online. So, let me go over here and read this one last one. And this will be the last one that I put on this video. That blew me away. I know. Coincidence? There's not supposed to be, when you've got this kind of a situation going, coincidence, I think not. That's exactly right. music, Jen. All right. Let me read this one real fast. Research reveals lack of power corrupts too. All right. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Evidence of this notion, credited to 19th century writer Lord Acton, is littered across the chapters of human history, from ancient civilizations to modern politics, business, and entertainment industries. While this evidence seems irrefutable, it begs the question: if power corrupts, does the lack of power cleanse? Not exactly. According to new research by Jessica Lee of the University of Washington Foster School of Business, the study by Lee and co-authors Ya-Ru Chen and Angus Hildreth of Cornell University demonstrates that one particular type of unethical behavior, self-promotional lying, is actually more common among lower power executives, managers, and employees. This includes behaviors such as claiming undue credit, exaggerating work achievement, and giving misleading information with the intent of enhancing personal status within the organization. Fake it till you make it. It all comes down to a threat to one's esteem, explains Lee, an assistant professor of management and organization at the Foster School. Powerful individuals in companies control the money, resources, and the people under them, whereas their low power counterparts control much less or absolutely none of these things. Lack of control over valued resources leads to feelings of lower esteem. Thus, people with lower power experience lower self-esteem and assume a lack of esteem in others' eyes. Okay, I'm just making sure everything was working right. Okay, this feeling of low esteem in one's company drives unethical behaviors in those who do not have enough power. When low power employees feel inadequate in their jobs and inferior compared to their coworkers, they are likely to tell self-promotional lies. In other words, if a worker feels unimportant and unvalued, they are more likely to exaggerate and lie about their accomplishments and skills. The popular saying, fake it till you make it, points to both positive and negative behaviors, Lee explains. On one hand, there are the acting as if psychological techniques put forth by Alfred Adler that focus on positivity and practicing desirable behaviors. On the other hand, there are unethical behaviors like lying that fake it in a potentially damaging way. The latter, negative actions, increase in those with lower self-esteem out of attempts to make themselves feel better and improve how other people perceive them. Ego is a huge driving factor, I guess I should say. How big is your ego? Is it easily damaged? An effective intervention, self-affirmation. Given this reality, Lee and her colleagues decided to find out if building self-esteem in lower power people would ameliorate unethical behavior. Okay, I don't know that word. They proposed an intervention that might reduce the tendency of people to tell self-promotional lies when they feel less powerful. They tested a method called self-affirmation. Specifically, study participants were asked to think and write about the values that they really care about. These core values encompass professional and non-professional domains such as creativity, independence, and relationships, among others. When lower power people focused on their core values, Lee found that they were able to shift their attention from any current esteem threat to the bigger picture of their life. Prior research has shown that this approach can help people feel better about themselves and even make them act with more confidence and integrity, she explains. In our study, we found that giving those who felt less powerful an opportunity to affirm their core values indeed reduces their tendency to tell self-promotional lies. But if you work in a circle of people where there's a whole lot of unethical behavior and there's a whole lot of dirt going on the higher realms, what do you think that does to the ones on the lower realms? You know, they want to do stuff too. They want to be a big shot too. You know, they can do it and do it down here on this small scale where nobody will know. Well, you see what Ben Fields did. Should organizations care? When employees stretch the truth to make themselves look great, organizations are harmed, Lee says. Self-promotional lies can result in incorrect information, bad decisions, and distrust in the company. When we look at members of law enforcement, you know that thin blue line? How many good cops actually take a stand against bad cops? How often do you see that? Because I don't ever see it. And the entire department knows who the bad apples are. I'm sorry. They do. They know. They know each other. And so when you have a member or two or three that are doing bad stuff, you know, oh, it just absolutely upsets me to no end. It upsets me because more people aren't willing to step forward. It's kind of like the whole thing with the lottery, where my mind was. Nobody talks. Everybody keeps it secret. It's like we all know that we're all doing something bad, so nobody can talk about it. You know, you've got a couple gambling houses. You got poker houses. You got a poker house in Whitesburg, and you got a poker house across the mountain. And there are members of our Letcher County court system who go to those poker houses. They see people in drug court in those poker houses. Nobody says a word. They just keep their heads down. Oop, 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 oop. I don't see you and you don't see me. Allegedly. Word is. All right. The paper shows that it is most often those who lack power rather than those who have it that engage in these particular kinds of corrupt behaviors. And organizations would be wise to be aware of this problem. Lee suggests that one way to combat self-promoting deception is to ensure that all employees, and especially those who languish in lower rungs of hierarchy, feel respected and valued. When employees feel good about their place in an organization, they are more likely to be honest. This can lead to a more genuine and productive work environment. When employees feel unimportant or undervalued at work, they might exaggerate their achievements to feel better about themselves, Lee says. We found that one way to address this is by affirming what employees personally and truly value in their life. This self-affirmation helps them accept who they really are and reduces their urge to exaggerate. When employees feel respected and valued, they are more likely to tell the truth, share genuine opinions, and make ethical decisions. The truth of the matter. Lee believes that Lord Acton's famous dictum does not tell the whole story, and her paper presents evidence. Closer to the truth may be a lesser-known quote from Aung San Kai, the Nobel Peace Prize winning Myanmar opposition leader. It is not power that corrupts, but fear. Fear of losing power that corrupts those who wield it and fear of the scourge of power corrupts those who are subject to it. Those who are subject to power, those below the C-suite in any organization, fear lack of importance and esteem, which can drive them to tell self-promotional lies, Lee adds. That fear drives a need for status that leads to unethical behavior. Fostering self-affirmation among those subordinate employees can address the problem. Do you think that Ben Fields, lied to himself? He was lying to himself, telling himself that he could get away with doing something like what he did. And so we just have to look at, what's that saying? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And so if you have a whole lot of talk on the outskirts about women being objectified and women being used in sexual services by certain people, that's something for people to look into. I'm a nobody. I'm an absolute nobody, and it bothers me. But there's become such a culture of silence. When the news reporters all came to town, when Mickey and Judge Mullins, when all that happened, they couldn't, these big news reporters, they couldn't hardly get anybody to talk to them. If you watched any of the interviews that they did show, people were they couldn't wait to get away. That's all I remember seeing was that girl. She was trying her best out in front of the Whitaker Bank to get away from that reporter. She didn't want her face on that camera. Well, at least that's how I perceived it. And a lot of people don't want to talk. A lot of people are just afraid. They're afraid of many things. There's all kinds of reasons for fear: retaliation, exposure. How many people engage in this kind of behavior, and how many people know about it. So these are all real important questions that need to be answered. I think the whole Shmex trafficking thing is kind of new to a lot of us. I think before, because it's such a taboo topic too. It's such a topic that nobody wants to discuss. Nobody wants to talk about it. I can't tell you how many decades around here there's always been some dirty old man, especially back when opioids were a big problem. There was always a dirty old man somewhere who had a bottle and would shake it at you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that with my own very eyes. And, I think it just happened a whole lot more than what people want to discuss and what people want to admit. And when you had a whole bunch of women who were addicted and they were going through withdrawals, that was probably a very easy thing. Why do you think men felt so comfortable doing that? Because it worked. That's just an ugly truth. It was easy to get a sexual favor if you had a bottle with something rattling around in it. And that's all you had to do. You didn't have to take them out for dinner. You didn't have to buy them nothing, you know. It's awful, but it's the hard truth, whether people want to admit it or not. And, you know, I know that this is not something that is easily discussed from either side, on the addict side or the person who's taking advantage of the addicted and the poverty stricken. So, you know, but I really thought that that was very interesting that all of those women who are unsolved murks were all related to Ben Fields. Allegedly. That's very, very interesting to me. All right, let's look at some of these comments. CC, good morning. Let's see, the Astro from Space. Good morning. Good morning. L. Plumley. Hello, darling. See ya later. SA was referred to as seeking arrangements somewhere. Oh. Music Gin. Wow, this is sickening. It sure is, honey. So if Days Inn sees ladies coming and going, they just let it happen? It's a good question, too. And you know, when it's somebody high profile in your community, you know that people know who they are, and they probably pay them big tips. Who knows? Danny Girl, good morning, everyone. Please remember to hit that like button. Yes, please. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe and like the video, share it. We're trying to grow this little channel as best as we can, and we are doing a great job. I appreciate everybody for helping and just being here. Let's see. Bro Smith 08, bunch of dirty old men, typical and shameful. And that's sad, but you know, there've been dirty old men for hundreds and hundreds of years. This is not a new thing. It's just, you know, people don't want to talk about it. Because who are these dirty old men? These dirty old men are our daddies and our grandpas and our uncles and our brothers. You know, and I'm sure it goes vice versa too. Dirty old women. We see it more and more on TV. All these teachers, these women teachers who are getting in trouble for messing with teenage boys. It just blows my mind. You know, sexual immorality is real. And it just depends on how much money you have and how much power you have, how far they take it. Look at Diddy. Look at what's going on with Diddy and these 1,000 bottles of baby oil. You think we don't have a white Diddy in Whitesburg? I'm sure we do. Decline of civilization. All small towns are sick. I swear it's worse than big cities. Old saying, good old boys. And that's all that's run this county forever is the good old boys. And if you're a woman in a position, it's only because you was married to one of the good old boys, or you were a daughter or a granddaughter of one of the good old boys, or a sister, or it's just how it is. My ex-husband played guitar in bar for years and years and years. And he would always tell me how disgusted he would be because that certain restaurant bar sits right across the street from the Letcher County Courthouse. And that's the exact same place where Mickey and Kevin had ate lunch that day. And he would tell, my ex would always tell me about how how the lawyers would all come in and they'd drink, and just not just the lawyers, but all of the bigwigs would meet down there and drink. And maybe not all of them, but a lot of them would. And, you know, when you get to drinking, you get a little loose in the tongue. And he played there for years and years and years. So he knew, he could see it. He saw it. You know, people would, a lot of these people would, this one would be sleeping with that one's wife, and this one would be sleeping with this one, and this one would be, you know, doing this, and this one would be doing that. And then you'd have defense attorneys who'd laugh their butts off. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world that they had just took some old man's last penny on a case or something, you know, just something that was really nothing to be celebrating. But they let their masks down when they're drinking. Certain people do, allegedly. Michelle Davis. Yeah, no, she's the good old boys. Okay. The Astro from space. This was a whole setup, and it worked for years. Frost meant, right, we need a group of good old girls to counteract the shameful good old boys system that has been around for far too long. Well, we'll see. We'll see. They couldn't stay awake during their relations. You know, it also makes me think of, you know, the case, the Soto case, Madeline Soto. In the video where the police were interviewing Maddie's mom, and they showed her the proof of what Stephen Stearns was doing to her daughter. She said, oh, okay, well, she still got him, she was still trying to get him a lawyer after they showed her the pictures that they had taken from his phone. She said, well, the sex stuff was, or the Shmex stuff was okay, but, you know, I just couldn't believe that he had hurt her. Are you joking me? So the Shmexual stuff was just no big deal. Her, the way that she carried herself in those interviews was very, very disturbing as a parent, as a mother. We are supposed to protect our children. And from the moment that she started seeing him and they started spending the night together and he started staying with them, that little girl never slept in her own bed. From day one, they all three slept in the same bed together, and they put Maddie in the middle. You can't do that. You just can't do that. It's unbelievable to me. You know, where's your, I've said it before, but where's the mama bear? You know, Where is the sense of outrage that these kinds of things are taking place? You know, but yet, that one guy in Speaky Piece said it the best. You can't put lipstick on a pig and think it's going to make it any better. Now you just got a pig with lipstick on, but it's still a pig. And I don't care how many preachers you push out in the front and how many preachers you get to go to court with you. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't lessen the crime or the immorality of it. This is so weird for me. Let's see. This is bad, really bad. Those poor girls. This is so weird for me that the lottery story has come up. Yeah, I feel there's a movie a lot like the lottery. Can't think of the name though. Under 12, ain't no way. I'm telling you. Kate, for Big Little Voices. Hi, honey. Love Bug. Hi, Love Bug. Ruby Rourke. Thank you for being here. Powerful men in small towns hold all the power and no one overseeing them. That's exactly right. Where's the people that are supposed to be keeping the citizens safe? You know, there's some kind of a phenomenon that tends to happen when people run for an election, or they, and especially if they win that election, oh, they've got friends that just come out of the woodwork. You know, they got friends everywhere. Everybody wants to be their buddy. Everybody wants to be their friend because they all want something. You know, we're a very self-serving society. We're very selfish people. We want something from these people. And if they are going to give it to us, then that's who we're going to vote for. You know, we don't really know about that person. We don't know. We've never met them, or we don't know them if you don't know them, you know. In small town, you might know of somebody. You might know their reputation. Maybe not know them so well personally. And just look at the news. Just look at the news. All of these people who are going down. It's just unreal. That guy that we just watched get sentenced, that sheriff, he had stole a whole train and was hiding it. Judge Coleman in the Fields case said that the criminal justice system was a victim of his crimes too. Yeah, the criminal justice system is a victim of any official who conducts unethical behavior. They're automatic, because it's not just the system. You know, they have the power over someone's life. They hold all the cards. All the cards. And it's not so easy. I hear people say all the time, oh, I'm going to sue them, or I'm going to sue this person, or I'm going to sue this person. Only if you can find a lawyer that'll take the case. A lawyer has to agree to take the case first. And if you live in a small town like we do, and a defense attorney doesn't want to get on the bad side, they know that this prosecutor doesn't like this person, and they don't want to get on their bad side for taking the case, they're not going to take the case. How do we, as citizens or defendants, how are we assured that they're not playing footsie behind the scenes in more of a than just professional? You know, we know that they have to talk and discuss a certain case, but what if they're doing more behind the scenes than what they're supposed to be doing? You know, a defense attorney can sink you too. How do we know whether they do or they don't? Trust is a very double-sided sword. Let's see. And Ben Field's wife, after he was they both, okay, Ben Fields worked in the courthouse. Well, his wife worked in the jail, which is in the basement of the courthouse. When Ben Fields was arrested or whatever they did, like, that was a very quiet thing around here too. Nobody heard about what happened. Nobody, that wasn't something that anybody talked about. Even if there's an article about it in the newspaper, you still don't even hear it on the streets. People just don't talk about it. If we don't talk about it, maybe it'll go away. You know, it's kind of like, here, let me close my eyes. If I can't see you, you can't see me. Ben Field's wife worked in the jail, and she still, I don't know how long she continued to work in the jail, but now they've got her in the prosecutor's office. She works for the state or the county or whoever it is down there. So she just went from being in one important role to an even more important role. She still works down there. Ben Field's wife. How's that for loyalty? Are these all coincidences? I think not. Was there a woman in lawsuit named Jennifer? I'm pretty sure that's her name. Yep. Truth cleanse. Hill's allegations were added to the suit filed in U.S. District Court in January by Sabrina Adkins, who also claims Field pressured her into Shmex in exchange for not charging her monitoring fees. Do you think he's the only one? Do you really think he's the only one? He had to have felt to do that, and he thought he was going to get away with that. Like, he didn't do that thinking he was going to get caught. He did that because he thought he was going to get away with it, is my opinion. And, you know, there's all kinds of reasons why he wouldn't then go talk and rat nobody else out. Well, his wife, she kept a real good job. She's got a better job than most people around here. I mean, just brainstorming. Yeah, I think Hill is the one who is no longer here. Let's see. Daily affirmations are good. Yes, they are. Frog Level Florida in the house. Greetings. Hi. Cheryl Butler, I don't know how any of this is tied to what happened with Mickey and Judge Mullins. All we can do is wait and see what comes out. There's a whole lot of people who are talking. Are they being taken seriously? I don't know. Because, they weren't doing this to upstanding church women in the community. They were picking women who were in legal trouble, who had severe addiction issues, who probably didn't have the greatest reputations, who probably weren't very trustworthy. I don't know. I'm just, because of Ruggs. These were the women who were being, who this was happening to. These are the women, that article that we just read about the guy at the motel, the mine guy. One of the girls was 17 years old, and who was exposed to this and introduced to what she was introduced to by her older sister. Our family environment, our home environment really dictates a whole lot of what we're exposed to and our developing our moral core as a human being. And we're all human beings. Judges are human beings. Lawyers are human beings. Teachers are human beings. And most of us want to think that people are good. Well, I don't think so. It's not been my experience that most people are good. It's been my experience that I'm disappointed way more than what I am surprisingly pleased. It was common and unnoticed. That's right. That's right. If you're not in with government, state, county, or city, then you're not in the clique. No. And it's like the next biggest thing, who's running for magistrate? Who's going to get that big payday? Oh, if I can just win that election, I'll have a dependable paycheck. That's all it is around here, is a payday. These positions give you a seat at the table and a dependable paycheck. And that's important when you come from a home of poverty. It's just crazy. Oh, congratulations, Elizabeth, on 2,000 subscribers. Thanks. Those women were called bad names, but the men weren't. That's exactly right. It's been a double standard forever. Forever. Still is, and probably always will be. Keto Kim, I'm from southern Missouri. It's the same all over, sadly. Yeah. And work I did, worked like a dog. Well, always been that way. New to your channel and love it. Have you seen the case in Arkansas where the dad took justice into his own hands? I don't know if I know the one that you're talking about, but I'll look it up. Congratulations, Elizabeth. Thank you. And congratulations to you all, because we sure wouldn't have his channel if it wasn't for you guys. morals, ethics, and integrity has been replaced by greed, power, and money. You hit that nail right on the head. That's how I presented myself. Like whenever I was trying to break into that circle down there, and I'd put all that work, 10 years of my life, getting all these licenses and degrees and all this stuff. Like I worked my tail off, man, as a single mom with 2 babies, one on each hip. And that's how I presented myself as an applicant, as they wouldn't let me in the front door. They run and hide, not to even have to speak to me. And I always felt so rejected, and I just felt so defeated, and like I wasn't good enough. Like, oh, you just have no idea the feelings of self failure, that I went through, going through that, being rejected time and time again, being laughed at, being mocked, talked about behind my back, just all this stuff, and being blacklisted for no reason, for why? Because I wanted a job? Because I wanted to do better? I wanted to actually make a difference in my community? But then years later, I saw the cesspool and just the awfulness of it from the outside looking in. And like I said, at one time, I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in that circle. I wanted to be one of them. God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, that he never allowed those doors opened, because, people like that eat their young. They eat their own young. And if you're not careful, they can sink you. They can put you, any kind of department or any kind of member of law, like if they want to set you up or if they want to do something, they can. All they need is a willing partner. And it doesn't look like they have to go very far to get a willing accomplice, I asked TNT about the swingers vid she has upcoming. She said everybody down there are swingers according to E. Yes, I've heard it too. That's what I was saying, my ex-husband, while he's playing guitar up there on the stage, he had a perfect view of what all was going down under the darkness. Have you ever thought about the woman working in restaurants owned by people from other countries? The women speak no English, don't make eye contact, aren't seen out in the community. Yeah. That's how we're taught. We're all taught a certain, we're all from our own specific culture. This young thug trial that's going on in Georgia, I see so many similarities to their poverty stricken areas of their poor communities, like maybe living in projects or just the poor areas, those poorest areas of Atlanta. That they're no different than the poverty-stricken areas here. I see so many similarities, and the abuse of power by the people who are prosecuting that case. They're using this racketeering statute in a way that, the way that the statute was written, it was intended for mob bosses. Like, that was intended for the mafia, the racketeering statute. And it was written in a broad manner so it could encompass all of those things that was going on with the mafia. Well, now they're using it like with Diddy, with what Diddy was doing. These are just two really big examples that I can use to explain it. My big question that I don't see anybody talking about with the Diddy cases are the lawyers. All of the lawyers that Diddy had on his side that were writing all of those NDAs, those non-disclosure agreements, that was writing all of the contracts, that were stealing people's rights, their music rights, their money. You can't be a lawyer and intentionally help someone hide crimes and commit crimes. And from what I understand, I think a lot of those lawyers who originally worked on a lot of that stuff, they're not his lawyers now, of course. But shouldn't they get in trouble too? Like, that he would not have been able to commit those crimes if it weren't for the lawyers who enabled him through threats, through coercion, through blackmail. You think that stuff doesn't happen here, just on a smaller scale? Let's see. Public trust and equality was lost years ago. It was. Same in our town. One of those articles you read about the baseball card collection, one of the men said he wanted the position for a paycheck and the bribes. That's right. That's right. You know, if you've got a defense attorney, I'm just saying, if you have a defense attorney who is, so you've got somebody who's charged with a crime, and the prosecutors come out and they say, we've got all this evidence. We have all this digital evidence. And the defense attorney charges, a couple $100,000, sucks everything that they can get out of this defendant and their extended family. The case just keeps getting continued and continued and continued, just like the Patrick Little case. The sentencing just keeps getting postponed and postponed and postponed. And every time they're getting ready to go back to trial, I need another $10,000. I need another $5,000. I need another $20,000. If you have a defense attorney who's doing that, and then, you get this case that's been postponed or whatever, close to a year or however many months you want to say, a long time, and then all of a sudden charges are dismissed. No conviction, no plea bargain. Charges are just all of a sudden dismissed. Well, that defendant's not getting all that money back. Their family's not getting none of that money back. Is that legal? And that happens over and over again. And then you have other cases that are very similar. They may not have been dismissed, but they were given 6 months when they're, charged with, like Ben Fields, with the charges Ben Fields was charged with. And then he gets 6 months in jail. And what I thought was very interesting, they didn't take him to another county. They took him, he got to serve his 6 months in Letcher County Jail, where his wife was working. How's that for another little tidbit of maybe conflict of interest? That's why you didn't get the job. You were a threat to their corruption schemes. Oh, they listen. And I had no idea. I was clueless. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to tackle the world. I was ready to make my mark with this piece of paper that a school said I was qualified for. Oh, I tell you, it's something to look back and just think of how naive we can be sometimes. I believed that you can grow up and be anything that you want to be. I believed that. Theory and practice are two very, very, very different things. It's one thing to learn it out of a textbook and, theory. The theory is one thing. But practice, experience is something completely different. And they should be linked. They should be connected. You should have to have the academic part before, or maybe not before, but you should have both. You shouldn't just be thrown into a law enforcement career with no training. How many people that have low self-esteem and have these power trips, it's just part of their personality. You think they're not attracted to those kinds of jobs? Because law enforcement doesn't pay a lot, to be a jailer down at the Letcher County Jail. You're not making anything. Your salary is not very good. It's not like you'd be able to support a whole family on that wage. What's the draw? Power, maybe? You gonna give somebody a set of handcuffs and a pew-pew? Control? Let's see. Several years ago, a Subway restaurant owner in Lexington had several hostages in his home and restaurant. Human trafficking. It happens to all kinds of those immigrants down in Texas and around the border. Those, what do they call them? Coyotes. They'll bring them over and then they hold them as prisoners in a home somewhere until their families pay all this money. And they don't know if they'll be released or not. They hold them hostage in Mexico all the time, and people will pay the ransom and they never see their families again. Sounds like God's protection keeping you from those people. That's right. He sure did protect me. He sure did, and I'm so thankful for it. Cops need better training and monitored without a doubt. I don't get why Mickey would give up his retirement, pension, and family unless a dang good reason. Just saying. Well, it just makes me wonder. Why? Why give up? Why sacrifice all that stuff? Why give up all that stuff? Unless you knew something that was coming down the road that nobody else did. If he knew, like he went to that deposition, he answered 4.5 hours of questions from that attorney, and he was there 8.5 hours. You think he didn't get some kind of a, no lawyer ever asks a question that they do not already have the answer to, or that they do not already know the answer to. It's just, they don't do it. So every question that that lawyer asked in that deposition, Mickey knew that the lawyer already knew the answer. So if you just use, simple deduction and reasoning, what did he know? What did he know that nobody else does yet, that has not been revealed? Was he facing something else? Was he facing something anyway? Do you think maybe he thought, well, I'm going to go anyway. I might as well go for some reason. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. None of us do yet. Poverty is poverty. That's right. No matter where you come from in the world, poverty is poverty. People in poverty are easy pickings for cops and lawyers. Yep. And social workers. People in poverty see what they do. It seems more than middle class. Yeah, because they don't have to hide it as much, because they have no fear of anybody listening to them. Nobody's going to listen to them. And they're not going to have a lawyer take their case. Nobody, they can't afford a lawyer to take their case. You don't have no pro bono work down here. Not that I've ever seen or heard of, unless it's, personal favor or something. Who knows? And the only ones that you had down there working on people's dust masks, like the black lung and all of that, you've got a couple nonprofit, but they make sure they're getting paid. Anybody that works for those nonprofits that way, they have funding set up in their grants, in their grant applications, like before they even get the funding, they put in their financial budgets to pay these lawyers. They're not doing it for zero. At least I don't think they are. Let's see. The attorney for the women said he'd never take a case in front of this judge again. He knows something or has an idea of something going on. Judge didn't want to recuse himself. I think he did eventually. He did, and yep, you're right, CC. That's exactly what happened. Human trafficking happens right here in Kentucky, too. Go to any ethnic restaurant, you'll see it. Let's see, prayers for Mickey. He also said the allegations his client filed in federal court basically alleges the judge was a likely witness. Yeah. And, it's just bad. It's really, really bad. All of it is. I'm going to do I'm going to do a whole series on Speak Your Piece. Since everybody likes that so well. We're going to do some Speak Your Piece here in a minute. But we've been on here for 2 hours, so it's been a long one. Sorry. I just subscribed. I am a great grandmother, 6, been yelling about the PEDO problem for 40 years. So what are we going to do about it as a collective society? I've lived in Jenkins for 56 years, since I was 7, and it's been corrupt for as long as I can remember. Whitesburg and Jenkins. Yep. And you know, I don't know if anything's ever going to change, though. Well, I guess we'll see. But I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to come back here in a little bit, and we'll do speak your piece stuff. All right. Well, y'all have a great rest of your day. If you haven't subscribed, please take a minute and just subscribe. Like the video if you did, and stay tuned. We're going to cover this this and many other trials together. And all right, you guys. Well, you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you in a little bit, okay? Thank you. Bye.